Hello. So I thought I will share a passage from this book, which is called Man's Higher Consciousness by Hilton Hotima, and it's called 6 Months on Orange Juice by John W. Marshall. So I thought I'd share this just to share some information about health and healing, physical health, which will also come with emotional. So, for years I had known of the great food value of the orange, not its value as measured in calories, but as a rectifier of the chemistry of the blood, as a restorer of the proper alkalinity of the life stream. I had seen many people live 2 or 3 weeks and even a month and on occasion even 6 weeks, on an exclusive diet of the delicious fruit. I had seen people complaining of all sorts of diseases, afflicted with worn out, poisoned, overfed and overnourished bodies, restored to a remarkable degree of health through the exclusive use of the citric fruit for varied periods of time. But when Dr. Leon A. Wilcox, a leading osteopathic physician of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, informed me in an unassuming fashion that he had a patient who had lived on orange juice for 6 months, I was amazed. I should not have believed the story from the lips of any ordinary man, but Dr. Wilcox is a man of high repute among the members of his profession and among his many patients and friends in Pittsburgh, where he has lived and practiced for a quarter of a century. Then, too, when he told me the story as I sat in his office, he spoke with such confidence and candour that I never thought for a moment to doubt his word. The following day I had the pleasure of seeing and speaking with the patient herself, a quiet little lady with big blue eyes and an oval face encased in a lovely white skin, into which, as I conversed with her, there came and went flushes of pink and red as she told me the remarkable story of her recovery from a condition of living death and her gradual evolution into a creature of living delight unto herself and to all whom she might meet. This is the story she told me on the November evening as we sat in Dr. Wilcox's office. I'm going to have to take my top off because I'm super warm. Okay. When I was a little girl, I was just about like other girls. I had fair health most of the time, though I was visited by the usual so-called children's diseases. I suppose you had a cold occasionally, I interrupted. Of course, plenty of them, especially in the winter time, was the reply. Then she continued, at about 14 I began to get fat. My parents, the stocky German type, heralded this acquisition of weight as a sign of health, of course. I thought the same, as I did feel quite well most of the time. However, I had a voracious appetite, and ate not only prodigious quantities of the good staple foods, such as bread, meat and potatoes, but great quantities of candies, ice cream, etc., etc. Certainly the most iron-bound constitution must have given way under the load. As the time went on, I got fatter and fatter, and my complexion, once ruddy and beautiful, began to acquire a sallow yellowish appearance. Blackheads and pimples became numerous. To rid myself of the latter, I tried various lotions, cold creams, beauty clays, etc. To restore the roses in my cheeks, I tried various highly perfumed toilet soaps and, of course, rouge and powder. When I did not succeed in eliminating the pimples and blackheads by the use of the skin lotions, and when beauty soaps failed to restore the roses to my cheeks, I used more and more rouge, lipstick and powder. Of course, it never occurred to me that my voracious and unbridled appetite had anything to do with my complexion, though my weight was steadily increasing. Dark rings began to appear beneath my eyes, much like mine, by the way. I began to have headaches, which as time went on became more frequent. At first, I sought relief in aspirin tablets, which of course relieved my headaches, but I realised that my condition was growing worse, so I began to visit doctors, from whom I got pills and prescriptions and orders to have my teeth pulled and my tonsils removed and various suggestions of equally stupid character. Of course, I did not realise then that all these things were stupid, though it is true I kept both my tonsils and teeth. If the doctors had been unanimous in their analysis of my case and given the same prescriptions, I should probably have followed all of the advice given, but the prescriptions varied so much that it was impossible to follow them. My appetite began to wane, my tongue was heavily coated, especially when I got up in the morning, but I took appetizers and ate highly spiced foods so that I was able to eat in spite of my revolting stomach. My headaches increased and my pain extended to other parts of the body. My legs, my arms, and especially my back ached most of the time. As I was now employed with the Westinghouse Electric Company and wanted to be always on the job, I had to force myself to do my duties. Force myself to get up in the morning, force myself into my clothes, in fact, force every move that I made. In the end, even eating became a burden to me. The only act I did not force was going to bed at night, but my sleep was never sound and dreamless. Instead, I rolled and tossed all night with occasional lapses of consciousness. Whenever I rode on the train, and occasionally even at work, I drowsed off into a stupor. Not only because my suffering an unsightly condition, but because I discovered that while other girls were in demand, I remained a wallflower. I stayed away from dances and social gatherings of young people. I became exceedingly morose and morbid and more self-centered. Life had become such a burden to me that many times, in many moments of greatest depression, I contemplated suicide, and only refrained because I lacked the courage. When doctors' medicine failed, the neighbours advised herbs, teas, mud bath packs, grandmother's physic? Some reason that doesn't look right to me, etc. But these home remedies were no more effective than those prescribed by the doctors. Instead of getting better, I got worse. My heart, which had been for some time troubling me a great deal, at times thumped so rapidly that it seemed it would jump out of my throat. My breath became short, my pains increased, my flesh became soft and pudgy, my ankles became almost as large as my calves. I was a sight to behold, only 1.5 inches over 5 feet tall, barefoot, and weighing 186 pounds. Here I was, only 18 years of age, as big as a baby elephant and saturated with the poisonous wastes from the food I had been eating. As I was about to give up in despair, I heard of Dr. Wilcox, the man who cures people with oranges. So, without a great deal of hope, but with the feeling that regardless of whether or not he could benefit me, since my condition was so bad that he could not possibly make me worse, I went to him. And for the first time since I had begun doctoring, I was told the real cause of my trouble. I was told that neither my stomach, nor my heart, nor my undernourished, decaying teeth, but my diet was responsible for my trouble. After a thorough examination, the doctor said, "We'll just put you on orange juice for 10 days as a starter on the cleansing process." Of course, this seemed like a long time to do without what I called food, but I was desperate, so I said, "All right, I'll do anything. I might as well be dead as in my present condition." The results were surprising, not only to me, but even to Dr. Wilcox, who had witnessed so many people doing the same thing. While the first few days were a bit difficult, I began to experience immediate relief, and before the 10 days were up, I had lost all of my pains and have never had a headache since. When the 10 days were finished, I felt so much better that I decided, upon the doctor's advice, to try the same diet for 10 days more. This was not hard to do, for I felt no desire for other food. At the end of 20 days, I felt still better, and my fat was rapidly dropping away. So as I still had no desire for other food, I continued on the exclusive orange juice diet. So I went on from one 10-day period to another, and as the days passed into weeks and the weeks into months, as my desire for other foods had not returned, as I had long ago said goodbye to my pains, as my fat was melting away and my complexion clearing up, I continued my course. Life had taken on a new meaning. I had begun to enjoy living. I no longer drowsed on every occasion when I relaxed, but when I went to bed, my sleep was sound and untroubled, in contrast to the spasmodic sleep that gave me no rest in the days when I was living in the old way. I became active and alert. full of vigour and vitality. Boys and girls alike began to desire my company, and the former especially became increasingly interested in my new-found charms. So I continued day after day and week after week until now 6 months have passed, and I am, as you see, completely restored to health. And I want to tell you, it is great to be alive. I feel like running and dancing and singing all the time. To see was to believe. I compared the picture she showed me of the overfed, overstuffed creature she had been, with the living, breathing reality before me, and I knew her story was true. You seem to have gone through this period of purging without pain. This is unusual. People, as a rule, suffer somewhat, especially at the outset of such a restrictive diet. Did you not at times suffer and feel morbid and discouraged? I asked. No, she replied. I improved from the start, and although the first few days were painful, I felt better each day. At about the middle of the period, I had a slight running at the nose. Dr. Wilcox called it a period of elimination, but this did not bother me. I kept on as usual with my work in the office of the Westinghouse Electric Company. Then you worked throughout the period of 6 months that you were on the orange juice diet? I again interrogated. Yes, and I walked about a mile every day and felt like walking more, but the doctor cautioned against it. You seem to have kept in pretty close touch with Dr. Wilcox throughout the period. Yes, I visited him every day, while he emphasized the fact that not he but the oranges were doing the work. He felt that without his guidance I might go wrong. I probably would have too, she added. What do you eat now? I asked. Raw foods, altogether green vegetables and a few nuts. This diet I enjoy much better than I did the old conventional cooked diet, she added with a smile of conviction. And thus ended the story of the wonderful transformation wrought by the daily use of the golden drops of sunshine from the orange. May it be told again and again. May it be an inspiration to thousands of suffering human beings, that they may be tempted to partake freely of this golden fruit whose substance has imbibed so freely of the life-giving properties of the sun that even the colour of its skin bespeaks the gold that lies within. Correct Eating, 1931. Read over carefully about this girl who began to fatten when she was 14, and how her parents considered it a sign of good health. Then her health began to fade, appetite began to wane, tongue heavily coiled. So there we are. That is a long bit of information. I didn't realise it would be so long for me to share that, but I felt like it would be much quicker for me to speak it than to type it out and for you to read it. So take that as you will, and I'm simply sharing information that may benefit others. So there you are.